Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing some spooky sewing. This project is going to be a goth floral dress that I'm going to draft and sew myself, and I'm going to take you along with me. So this is my design. It is a basically cotton sundress with fun little shoulder ties, and I'm going to be doing it in this really wonderful floral and skull printed cotton that I picked up at Joann's. It's just a quilting cotton, it's not anything fancy, but I just fell in love with it when I saw it, and I knew I had to have it as something. And it's gonna be this dress. So this is the basic bodice block pattern that I have. It is a princessy style one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the neckline so that it is lower and sort of a squared scoop sort of neckline. I'm not really sure how to describe it. And I'm going to go ahead and make the straps at 1.5 inches, and then the armhole is also going to be lowered a little bit. And here are the results of those changes. I'm going to be doing something similar to the back, where I lower the back of it, although not quite as much as the front because I don't want it to feel too exposed. And then I'm also going to narrow the strap and lower the armhole. It was by an inch on both pieces. And here are the results of that. So now I'm going to step away and do a quick mock-up and see how this turned out. Okay, so the changes that I made to the pattern after my first mock-up were a little interesting. So what I experienced was that on the top, in the front especially, the straps were too close to the edges of my shoulders and not close enough to the neck side of my body. So what I'm going to do, or what I did to the pattern to adjust it, and you can see here, is I added an ½ inch to the side seam of the front and the back. You can see that here as well. And then removed a ½ inch from both the center front and the center back pieces, in addition to cutting the center front piece so that it had less of a triangular shape to it, because it did stick out more this way previously. So like it was not shaped quite so, like it's pretty much just a rectangle now with a little bit of a curve to it. And I just slashed it and taped it back together a little closer together to preserve the curve of the outside edge, so I don't have to worry about like the seams not lining up. And those were pretty much all the changes that I made to it. It was basically just shifting where the seams were, and what that's going to do is it's going to bring these straps closer in towards the center of my body. It also, honestly, made it more comfortable too, because it got a little bit further away from my armpit. I'm fairly sensitive to things in the armpit region. Basically this just brought it a little further away from the front of my arm, so it'll be a little bit more comfortable. Okay, so now for the skirt math. To determine the skirt panel sizes, I went ahead and measured the total width of the front panel all sewed together, and then the total width of the back panels, what they would be all sewn together. And honestly, I just kind of guessed about how much fabric I'd want to use for each piece, and then made sure that the back was slightly smaller than the front after gathering it, just because the front is about 2 to 3 inches wider than the back. Yay, balancing patterns. You can see what results I had here. Got one panel that is 38.75 inches, and the length I determined was 27 inches. And then I've got two panels that are 20 inches wide by 27 inches long, and those are going to be my two back pieces. And then I drafted my shoulder ties, which awesomely enough ended up perfect the first time. So basically just folded a piece of paper in 4 and then drew what 1/4 of that design would be, cut it out and unfolded it, and it was perfect. So once I felt good about my pattern, it was time to cut the fabric out. I made sure to cut out my pattern once in my wonderful skull fabric, and then once in my lining, which is just a plain black cotton. I then stay stitched all of the pieces with curves on them, and also did some overcasting stitching on the bottom of all of the bodice pieces so that I wouldn't have to worry about finishing that edge later, as it won't get finished any other way. And this is the result. Then pinned together the front panels and stitched them together, and then did the same with the back panels. I did not connect these at the side seams, only at the shoulder straps, as I'm going to be sewing this together using the burrito method, which I learned about on the internet. I repeated all of this with my lining, and then it was time to put them together. The lining is done. Next up is to attach the lining and the top together at the armhole and neck holes, and then I'm going to trim down the seams, turn the whole thing right side out by pulling this back piece through the strap, and then I'm going to understitch and press everything as needed, and then after that attach the side seams together, and then we get to do the skirt. So what I did was I lined these up along the armholes and the neck hole, and then sewed it together. So here's the front, and here's one of the back pieces, and we are just going to shove this through here. Okay, so I got both sides turned right side out. I would not recommend doing straps any narrower than this. I found that out the hard way. These are 1.5 inch, and I think any narrower and it would be almost impossible to turn this right side out, like taking the back through the strap. Next step is going to be to do some understitching on the, the neckline, the armholes, and then press it. Alright, this is the top. Just have to do the side seams, and the entire top will be done, and then it is on to the skirt, starting with cutting some pockets because I forgot. Okay, so these are my skirt pieces. I've got one that is 38 inches wide and two that are 20 inches wide. These are going to get seamed together at the sides with the pockets that I just cut out. I am not doing fun pockets for once, just because this dress is going to be, I think, kind of busy, especially if you see like another pattern peeking out of the pocket. So I'm going to do the side seams, and after that I'm going to gather this whole thing down to fit into the top. Okay, so I'm trying something I've never done before, and I'm gonna try to do French seam side seams with a pocket. I'm a little nervous. Wish me luck.
6.5 hours later.
I'm making an executive decision to only do one pocket. Because I don't want to French seam another pocket. It's annoying. I thought it would be fine, but it's annoying. It's like 2 whole extra steps. I'm gonna finish the skirt now. So after I promptly gave up on this whole French seamed pocket nonsense, I just did the other skirt seam as a normal French seam, and then I sewed the lining together. Time to do some gathering. And gathering. Time to attach the skirt. Okay, now it is time for the zipper installation. I'm doing this my favorite way of doing zippers, which is to stitch up the back using basting stitches up until this zipper is 20 inches long, so I'm going to probably be around here. And then I'm going to switch to a normal stitch length and, you know, back stitch it a little bit and then continue all the way to the bottom so that that takes care of the rest of the back of the dress. After that, I will be pressing it open and then laying the zipper on top of that seam, sewing it in, and then unpicking those basting stitches. So step 1, sew the back of the dress together. And we're going to do something very similar with the back. Alrighty, and now switching to a shorter stitch length. Okay, that is the back of the dress finished. Alright, I've got my zipper pinned in, and now I just have to stitch it in. Okay, last thing are the ties. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch them together, right sides together, except for a very small, like a 1-inch gap in the middle. Turn them right side out after trimming the edges, and then stitch that little bit shut. Although these are just going to tie around the top of the straps. And once I'm done with these, then I'm going to hem the skirt and the dress will be done. So I'm just going to hem it and then it will be time for the reveal. I had a really good time making this dress, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. If you want to see some more spooky crafts, then go ahead and subscribe so that you get all of the notifications and can stay up to date on all of my videos. I'll see you next time. Happy Spooky Month!